Good afternoon. My name is Mike Merrill, and I'm the County Administrator for Hillsborough County. Thank you again for all being here. It's with a heavy heart that I stand before you today, and that's because the mission has changed for us, and my sympathies go out to the family and to all of their friends and the neighbors here who have gone through this horrible tragedy. The mission has changed because we can no longer sustain a rescue effort. We've met with the family, we advised them of that, and that at this point we have to move beyond the rescue to a demolition phase and a securing of the site. Basically, the engineering team that we have, and I have some of the gentlemen here with me who can answer some questions, have determined that the site is entirely unstable. And for that reason, we really can't bring a lot of equipment onto the site. Any further work will need to be done from the perimeter. We're going to be bringing in shortly some heavy equipment to help us with that part of the process, which is the demolition. Unfortunately, we have not been able to determine the whereabouts of Mr. Bush, Jeff Bush, who's a gentleman that was consumed by the sinkhole. We've told the family that, and again, we've expressed our sincere condolences to them. As we reported throughout the day and last night, the sinkhole is extremely large. It's a huge chasm extending down 50, 60 feet. With all of the equipment that we brought in and specialized help, we just have not been able to locate Mr. Bush, and so for that reason the rescue effort is being discontinued. We continue to bring in all the necessities that the family needs. They're being provided with clothing and food and shelter. The Red Cross, I want to say a special thanks to the Red Cross. They've been here throughout, providing for the needs of the family and community. Also, the Hillsborough County Crisis Center has provided counselors, which at this point is something very necessary for the family. So at this point, I'll be happy to take any questions. We have Ross McGillivray here, who's our expert on the sinkhole issue, and we have others here who can answer your specific questions. So at this point, I'll open it up. It's likely that the demolition will begin tomorrow morning.
What time is it going?
I have no idea exactly.
And after that, will they be trying to recover the body?
No, at this point, it's really not possible to recover the body.
The body of Jeff will stay underneath there forever?
We believe that will be the case, yes. Again, we're dealing with a very unusual sinkhole. It's very deep, it's very wide, it's very unstable. And that's why I said that any further demolition can't even take place on the site. It needs to be done from outside the perimeter with huge equipment that will be able to reach in and bring out whatever we can of the house. Now, we have given the neighbors on either side the opportunity to go in and to retrieve what they could within a short period of time. And whatever the demolition crew can bring out with the equipment tomorrow from the Bush home, we will attempt to do that. But again, this is a very unusual situation. Yes?
How wide is it at this point again?
I'm sorry?
How wide is it at this point?
Let me ask Ross to come up and address that.
It's still very columnar, and so it's probably about 20 feet wide at the top. It most likely bells out to a little bit wider than that, which is what the real concern is, because it makes the upper section of it unstable. And the real problem with it is it's totally within the structure, so that if there's any additional collapse and you have someone near it, they're at risk. They're for serious injury or death also.
So earlier you said it was about 50 or 60 feet deep?
It's deep, yes.
And then at its widest point, what would you say it is?
I would say right now, from what we can see, it's probably in the range of about 30 feet. That doesn't mean it's going to stay there. this is going to widen out as the soil accommodates the stresses. And so what will happen is this thing will begin to cave in and lay back to a slope. Now the slope will probably be somewhere around the size of the house, maybe larger. We don't think it's going to cross the street. We think it's going to be confined to that part of the site based on our testing.
Have you been able to lower listening devices or cameras in there?
I have not, no. We've abandoned the attempt. I've got a camera that we were looking at using, but the safety issues are just so extreme that we really can't make that work.
What's going to be with the houses on either side? Are they condemned or just people just ordered to stay out?
At present, they're ordered to stay out,
When do you
and
make a decision on condemnation? Do you have-
we're still looking at the soil data, and that decision will be made later, I think.
What did you find underneath the neighboring houses?
The neighboring houses have soil conditions that are very similar to the conditions we found close to the sinkhole. That's the concern. The formation of a sink is a spot issue. If you think about them, what you typically see is a hole that appears at the surface. It's caused by erosion of the soil down into the limestone. And then what happens is they then open up. And that's the concern. And we can't really say for certain how much, but at the depth that we have there, I would anticipate that the slopes will lay back so that we'll have a maybe 40-foot or 50-foot diameter surface expression if it continues and there's no mitigation. If we could get the house off of it and clear the site, there's a potential that you could fill the hole with gravel and sand and stabilize it, and you wouldn't have that much collapse and expansion.
So right now, are there any holes or any kind of cavities underneath either of the other houses?
We didn't see any cavities, no.
So the other two houses will be compromised right now. We don't know if they're going to be condemned, but they're compromised. And right, if that's correct, and then doing the demolition is going to try to preserve those homes from condemnation?
That's beyond the scope of work. That I'm a specialty geotechnical engineer and deal with the foundation and soil issues. And there.
Demolition involve those other two homes as well, or just the one home right now?
That's something that we'll have to determine tomorrow. The main objective right now is the Bush home. That's the one that's compromised. As they begin to work with that home, they'll make decisions about the other two. Just going back to a question that you had asked about microphones, we did lower microphones at the outset and had them there for quite some time and did not hear any sounds, no audible sounds. There was a small camera that we were able to place at the opening of the major hole, and we could have limited view inside, but that was as far as we were able to go.
Sir, do you know if there's ever been another case like this before in Florida where there's been equipment that was claimed by a sinkhole?
I do not know.
I've never heard of one. I've been practicing since the 1970s in Florida, and I've never heard of a sinkhole causing a fatality.
Can I just get a clarification on that then, though? So the middle home is obviously condemned. The other two homes are considered compromised?
Yes, that's correct.
To be clear, you guys are saying, to your knowledge, this is the first fatality in the sinkhole in Florida.
To my knowledge, yes.
Get your name.
Ross McGillivray,
Spell your last name, sir.
MC capital
Step it, 2069.
MC capital G ILLIVRAY.
Yeah, he is a victim.
V as in Victor.
Who are you with? And who are you with?
I'm with Ardaman and Associates.
I spell that.
ARDAMAN.
What is that firm?
That firm is a specialty geotechnical engineering and materials testing firm, primarily based in Florida, although we work internationally.
Mike, you tell us where the family went on either side.
I'm sorry?
Do you know where the family went from either side? Do you know where they went?
I do not know, no.
Will any of these, obviously the Bush family, Ricker family can't get in the blue home. Will the other families ever be able
No, we gave them a limited window earlier to retrieve valuables.
Time in their home.
Yes, yes.
Are there any memorials planned for death?
I don't know of any personally, but I've heard the family will be doing some sort of memorial service. Yes.
So what time do you expect the demolition start?
I'm not sure. It'll be sometime tomorrow morning. We'll be bringing the equipment in very shortly this afternoon.
What kind of equipment?
Just very big equipment. I don't know the specifications. It's
Something you say about the demolition? Is it from the top down, the side?
it's from the perimeter.
Sorry?
It's from the perimeter.
And you say that the family will have an opportunity to try to go in and get some of the home?
No, as part of the demolition, excuse me, as part of the demolition, the equipment may be able to retrieve some portions of the house and bring it out to a safe place.
Is there the hope that with that demolition you'll be able to save some of these other homes if there's any danger at all?
The demolition really, I don't believe, has anything to do with saving the other homes. It's just securing the site at this point.
Demolishing the middle home, but all families from all three homes will never get into those homes.
That's correct.
Have any indication of whether this is spreading beyond three homes?
I'll ask Ross to address that.
Well, the reason we did a test on, across the street here, we also did in the back of the other house, is to try and evaluate the variation in the soil conditions. There's some similarities, but the conditions are improving as you move uphill from the Bush home. So we feel that the conditions are going to be isolated to an area affected by the Bush home at this time. There's no indication in the borings or in the probes that we could see serious expansion beyond those affected now.
When will you be able to determine that for sure?
Well, we're still analyzing the data, and that's going to take a few days to go over it more thoroughly.
Were there any photographs taken inside of the house to show the scope of something that is so unprecedented in the shore in Florida?
As far as photographs taken inside the house, we, when we pulled off the site from the very first night, we have not approached the perimeter. So we don't have anything really telling us the full extent of the damage inside of the house at this point.
Can you describe, though, I mean, possibly from outside, it doesn't look like there's a sinkhole inside or behind it. Can you give us a description of, like, when you walk in? Is there still a home there, or is it just a sinkhole?
Well, so what I can tell you is based on what we saw the very first night, and we know that it's continued to lose soil and to grow. We have not gotten close enough to it to get inside of it or to take, to really make any conclusions. But what we can tell you based on the first night is that the hole is contained completely inside the footprint of the building. And there is actually a slab off the back of the house that the hole extends underneath of that as well. So the hole has taken up at least 1/3 of the house, and the interior floor slab has gone into the hole, and the walls are hanging. So it's an extremely precarious situation.
Would you tell us your name?
My name is Bill Bracken. I've been out here since the first day.
And you're with?
I'm with Bracken Engineering. I'm working in a capacity with Hillsborough County Fire Rescue as part of their search and rescue team.
How far will the heavy equipment have to be away from the house?
We have identified that nothing can go closer to the house than the sidewalk.
Any word on what caused this particular sinkhole?
What caused it?
Based on what we've seen, my opinion is that sinkhole's been growing for a while. The mechanism is that water seeping as it rains down over a clay layer above the limestone. And when it finds a discontinuity, like a crack or fissure in that clay, it flows downward down into the limestone, which basically Swiss cheese is very porous, and erodes the soil. That void then migrates toward the surface, and as it gets closer to the surface, it ultimately becomes unstable. And then at that point, you get a catastrophic failure of the roof, the whole system drops in, and you have a sinkhole. Initially, when you look down that hole, what you're going to see is the soil probably at about, I think it was about 20 feet or so down. And then what happens is it continues to move and ravel downward because of the void that's there. So it bridges off. The mechanism is an ongoing one. It's, I believe, associated with flow of surface water at that interface. And apparently some information is indicating that where that retention pond is used to be a stream. And it's very typical to have water that's flowing in surface water and exiting into the stream bed as base flow to cause erosion of the soil and to cause dissolution of the limestone, making that area more porous and more susceptible to things.
You said it was a process that's been ongoing. How many years? Decades? Years?
It could be decades. There's really no way to know. I would anticipate in this case that years is the right answer, and maybe decades.
Is there any way that the family could have known that, though? I mean, is there any way to know if your house is in that situation?
Normally, what we get is enough structural distress due to the strain in the soil that you can see that there's a problem. So you can look for, and this is what Mr. Bracken does, is look for cracks in the walls and distortion in the structure. That's a tip-off that there's a problem. Or you'll see subsidence of the soil near the structure. That will be a tip-off. The problem with this one was it was entirely within the building, at least initially, and below slabs. So it was hidden until it became catastrophic. There's really no way, to go beyond that. But this is an incredibly unusual condition. I've been doing this for a long time, and I have never seen one like this condition. So the probability of occurrences, I think, is low. Well, I moved back to Florida in 1970, so I've been doing the work here 1972 forward.
Is there anything that you can do with construction of a home or with codes? Is there any recommendations for code changes or not a monolithic slab, maybe something else?
Well, this wasn't the monolithic slab, and actually a more robust structure, more modern design might have survived better. There may be some issues that we won't know for sure in terms of the construction of this house. We do know the floor slab was very thin, and that could have been part of the problem.
Any other questions at this time? Thank you all again. Please, please join us in keeping the family, the neighbors in our prayers. We've done everything we believe that we can. We wish we could have done more, but given the circumstances, I could not put more people at risk, and we feel that we have done everything we can. So thank you again.